greetings. I'm Dan Polk here again for American Peasants, and you've caught me at a great time. We're right in the middle of an initiative to revitalize our school garden. This is the school I teach at here, this intermediate school. And our big movement this spring is to, and it is June of the year, is to rebuild some of the garden beds, and that's what we're going to feature in this segment. So if we could come in close, get a couple details. I will show you how to reinforce the corners, cut all the pieces, and lay it all out, clamp it all together, and it'll be just lovely by the time it's finished. The boys and girls, I teach 6th grade, and they dug this all out, excavated, laid this in, did the eyeball work, and it's all pretty straight and true. Later we have bark coming in and soil to fill it, and then next year will be another bonanza gardening year for us here at our school. The first thing I want to do, the next segment, is going to be all the tools and materials you're going to need. So we're going to cut to that, and let's get started. So when we put together a raised garden bed, there's some things to consider. First of all, what are the materials that you need, what are the tools that you need, and what is the order that the things are going to go together, and so forth. So safety first, don't forget your safety glasses. Anytime you're drilling or cutting anything, always a great idea, just some polycarbonate glasses from the local hardware store. There's a lot of stuff out there today. Clamp, you might want a clamp to hold material together. I'll show you how that comes in handy. The big engine of war here is the worm drive circular saw, and it's a skill saw. This is the lightest saw in its class. It's really very effective, and with a worm drive saw, it is heavier than a sidewinder, but the motor's behind it, and then it has a worm gear here, actuate the blade, and it's going to be very steady and true, not want to bind on you. There are lag screws. There's 8 more going in later. These are all galvanized washers. Rubber mallet to tap materials in place. Trusty 20-foot tape, 25-foot tape measure. Any kind of claw hammer will do. My old 3/8" electric drill. Gloves, protect your hands. Nails, I'll show you how those come in handy. Framing square helps to mark material off at a right angle so you can make a straight cut, but also a measuring tool. Don't forget your pencil. The ratchet will help us drive in those lag bolts, and then the leftover cedar posts we're going to repurpose and use. We did it with some of the landscaping, use these some of the landscaping. We're going to repurpose those for those corners that you saw in the earlier segment, the corners that reinforce and make the box last so many years. I'm going to set up all the materials here, and I might just have a word about the type of wood. White cedar or red cedar or redwood, naturally insect resistant and insect repellent. It has some oils, naturally occurring oils in there, and that gives it that nice smell. You don't want to use treated wood for your vegetable production because those copper-based, there's actually some arsenic in some of them, and they leach out into the soil, and you don't want that in your food and your vegetable supply. So I would say white cedar, red cedar, or redwood is your very best choice. It's also soft and easy to work with, and it smells lovely. Let's get started. I'm going to cut a couple pieces to length here, and we'll go from there. Thank you. So we've got 9 feet marked off because our beds are maybe 9 by 2.5, I think. I might also just turn your attention here. I've already cut the end pieces to save us some time. These are just 2.5 feet, same white cedar, and you'll see how those go together in the next segment. At any rate, now we reach for the 2 things. We reach for the framing square. We're able to actually mark where we're going to cut, and this gives us that nice square cut. Double scribe it if you like. And then this tool, this is a very semi-modern type of clamp. It's just kind of a friction clamp. Alright, don't forget your eyewear. Put those on. Grab your gloves if you like. Go. Kind of handy in your back pocket. grab the worm drive, and if you want to come in here, you can see there's a notch here right here in the plate, the bottom plate of the saw, but I also like to watch the blade. Let's make a cut and see how that goes. And just leave the saw resting on the material. You got your spare piece here, set it aside, pick the saw up, move it aside, and I'll cut the next piece of length. You don't have to watch all of it, but much similar process, and we'll go from there. So, having cut the two long pieces and the short ends are cut, we have to cut the corner piece, and this is a thicker material, and even 7 1/4 inch circular saw, it's set as deep as possible with the plate here and the depth gauge. I can't cut through this in one pass, so we got to do it 2 passes. So the first one, and then we'll flip it over and do the scribe it and do the second one. Again, let the saw come to a complete stop. And the old saying, my old man used to say in all my shop, let the saw do the work. You don't fight it. If it's binding, it's small, you're doing something wrong, especially with a powerful saw like that. Anyway, we're going to go ahead. These are not exactly the same dimension on each side. It's a little wider than it is tall. So I'm trying to cut through the narrow sides, and so they'll meet in the middle, hopefully. And just go ahead and mark take your framing square and mark off your line. Try to match it up. It's not going to be perfect. You're always eyeballing it to see how you do. And I'm going to clamp this first, because after this, the piece, hopefully if it's cut right, it's just going to fall away. And we don't want it to bind. I don't want to have to grab onto it and fight it. You align the blade of the saw. I can see the blade from my perspective. Line it up here, but then I'm also lining it up with the cut below. And just see how we do here. That's pretty slick. You can do that good, then it's good enough for our rough carpentry project here. I'm going to cut these other pieces, and then we'll show you how it goes together. Thank you. Rubber mallets is to micro adjust, make sure everything is square and flush as possible. And with air dried lumber, you're never going to get everything perfectly true. It's not kiln dried stuff, so we just do the best we can. And there's a bow in this anyway, but it's for rough carpentry, just an outdoor bed. We do need to clamp it. These are going to be, this is one end of the bed, and then the long pieces will go on the sides, and I'll show you how that all goes together. And if your eye is good, you can place your holes somewhere away from the edge and in the middle of the larger material. So I put one here, and I can enlarge on that in just a minute. And I want to drill the holes. There's my bolt with the washer included. So we have just a little bit left. I'll probably take it right to there. So there's a little bit left to that for that to bite into. And the bit itself is somewhat smaller than the screw. And it's soft material and very easy to work with, so don't fight it, let the tool do the work. There's one. I put the other one here because we have to, when we bolt the other piece on, we don't want those bolts at odds with each other, so we'll leave room. Some wiggle room. It's just very informal, but we want to look nice too. And likewise on the other side. And I'll try to make those match up, of course, and look all nice. Don't fight the tool. This one's got to match up with this one and line up with this one. And if it's good to your eyeball, then it's good to the passerby, and you have to take pride in your work. Now, bolts are ready to go in. I won't bother you with all the details, but just a simple ratchet, and we'll start this in and go from there. Oh, you gotta set the ratchet to go in the right direction. And once we get it started, it's not self-tapping, but it's close. Anyway, I will finish driving those in, and then you'll see probably the last part of it going together, and we'll go from there. Thank you. So, phase 2 here, and these are the ends that we built yesterday. And then, as I said, we're going to lay the long sides out, and the clamp is make sure everything's equal and square. Now with air-dried lumber, you're never going to get a perfect fit. This corner here is pulled out just a little bit, but by adjusting and nailing it in place, it's all going to take shape. Again, this one is going to resemble exactly the one we saw yesterday, same dimensions, and it's coming along. And I would say that is how you go about building a wooden raised planter bed, simply, effectively, and as strong as possible. And again, the white cedar or red redwood is going to be the most insect resistant and going to last the longest in the ground without those harmful chemicals. Dan Polk here for American Peasants. Happy growing.